Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for another review of Doctor Who Twice Upon a Time. Yes, if you missed the news, I went to one of the early northern screenings in Bradford to watch this episode early the other day. You can check that video out now if you haven't seen it already, although to be honest, if you're watching this, you have probably already watched Twice Upon a Time, and therefore a spoiler-free review is pretty redundant now. So let's get into this review instead, the full spoiler-filled analysis of this story. I have refrained from recording this review until after the story's been broadcast on BBC One. Like I say, I have already watched it and I've made some notes already, but I wanted to give a holistic review of the episode as a whole, because of course the screening copy didn't include Jodie Whittaker's first scene as the Doctor, which I have now seen. So yeah, let's get straight into it, and I might as well focus on the bits of the story that I wasn't able to talk about in my advance review. So overall, this story, wow, an amazing story as a regeneration story and as a finale to the 12th Doctor's era and to the Stephen Moffat era as well as that. I really enjoyed it both times, even more so on a second watch. I think it's a great metaphor for change and regeneration. There's a parallel with the Doctor's situation I've picked up on with the testimony version of Bill, because that version of Bill has Bill's memories. She is, to all intents and purposes, Bill, but at the same time, she's in a different body. It's the same memories in a different body, and that's very much like the process of regeneration, of keeping the same memories, but just in a new body. There's also that idea of facing your fate. The episode is all about hope and optimism, both for the Doctors and also for the Captain, who too faces death. However, he survives in what is described as a miracle. This is an arbitrary moment that gives the Doctors a sense of hope and optimism going forwards, proving that the future might not be so bad after all. The Captain thinks he's going to die, but then he doesn't. It's a miracle. The story is about assuming the best, not the worst. Both Doctors are afraid of the change of regenerating. They both actually also assume that testimony is evil, but it is in fact a force for good. That they view things negatively, but by the end of the story, they're viewing things positively. Going forward, there's a great line from the 12th Doctor: the universe is not usually a fairy tale, that's where we come in. And I think overall this story is about the Doctor realising, for the first Doctor, and for the 12th Doctor, for reaffirming all the values that he stands for, and that essentially he is an ambassador for hope and for optimism. If anybody in the universe is up for that title, it's him. I found the Silent Night Christmas armistice scene very moving, though part of me wasn't entirely convinced by it being the reason that the first Doctor chooses to part from the 12th Doctor and go ahead with his regeneration. Is that really justified enough? Part of me isn't sure really. But then again, it is the Captain, it's a miracle, it's an arbitrary moment of hope. Maybe it is. The story is all about endings. There are cameos from a number of Moffat-era characters, including all of the 12th Doctor's companions. Though having said that, that's only 3 of them: Clara, Nardole and Bill. It's lovely to see Clara again. I know there are lots of people that are going to be really peeved off about her returning, and that just makes me very happy, frankly, because, well, it's a joke. I mean, to think that you could have the 12th Doctor's final episode without Clara. There's a beautiful parallel and poetry between his first scene where he's opposite Clara after just regenerating from the 11th Doctor, and then, now at the end of his tenure, opposite Clara again. Rusty the Dalek from Into the Dalek is also back to provide some form of closure to the 12th Doctor's Good Man arc that was started in Series 8 and sort of resolved then, but the theme of morality and good versus evil is brought up again in this episode, for example in conversations between Bill and the First Doctor. And as Bill suggests to the Doctor, and the kind of realisation that I think Stephen Moffat is coming to as he's writing this story, during his tenure as well, is that maybe the Doctor doesn't really know why he does what he does. Maybe there is no point, like the Doctor says in The Doctor Falls, the previous story, the Series 10 finale, in that iconic speech. There is a kind of ambiguity towards it, what's good, what's evil. Testimony, that the Doctors both think that might be evil, but in fact it's a force for good. And I think Moffat is trying to say that there is that ambiguity there, the blurred lines between what is good, what is evil, and basically, as long as the Doctor tries his best, that's all anybody can ask for, and that's all he can really achieve. However, beyond these references to Moffat-era stories, there are also references to stories from beyond the 12th Doctor era, from beyond the Moffat era. For example, there's Testimony's connection to New Earth, or the planet Villengard, as mentioned in Moffat's first Doctor Who story, The Empty Child / The Doctor Dancers. Beyond that, there's also Captain Lethbridge Stewart, a nice touch, but, admittedly a very obvious twist, nevertheless. Or even the first Doctor himself, not to mention brief cameos from all 13. Again. In short, this story stretches beyond the confines of the eras that it's drawing to a close to provide a larger sense of closure to the first 54 years of Doctor Who, or more specifically, the first half-century of the Doctor being played by a man. To be honest, I was expecting slightly more references to this part of the story. In hindsight, I do think it was oversold in promotional material and interviews when Moffat was saying, the Doctor's been a man for 50 years and now it's time to be a woman. And I just thought maybe that might translate more so into the story, all the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on. Maybe we might get more of a glimpse of that beyond the first Doctor's sexist remarks, which, yes, are a tiny bit annoying, but I think I can overlook them, as I've said in my spoiler-free advanced review. Capaldi's actual generation was great. I liked the speech. It wasn't quite as cohesive as previous ones, as some have pointed out. But having said that, I think it has grown on me on this occasion. I'm also in two minds about the music used, Breaking the Wall from Heaven Sent. It's quite loud and bombastic once it gets going, and to be honest, I think I would have preferred something a little bit more reflective and sad for the 12th Doctor's final moments. But the regeneration itself was just shot and directed so well by Rachel Talalay. I think that's how you say it. Talalay, whatever. However you say that. I loved the use of the 12th Doctor's TARDIS in all the different shots of him, by the console, going up onto the balcony, then falling down to echo the first Doctor's regeneration slightly, before finally, going back to the console, standing up and regenerating into the 13th Doctor. And yes, as I've already said, the 13th Doctor's first moments were cut from the previous screening I saw, so this was the only bit of the episode that I've seen today for the first time, as it were. Wow, Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor, is here. She is the Doctor now. I loved the way it was shot again, her bit, so original. We see her from behind, then we see her point of view, kind of blurred, post-generation sort of point of view. Then we see close-ups of her eyes, with the console, the top of it mirrored in her irises. And then finally, her face and that smile and that, brilliant line. I think it was so well done, inspiringly shot, really creative compared to previous Doctor debuts following a generation. And just a really great way to show off the Doctor's new body. You get to see the back of it, you get to see close-ups of the face, you get to see the face itself gradually revealed. Really well done again by Rachel. Absolutely loved it. I'm not going to try and say her last name because I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong. Okay, the rest of it was a little bit of a rip-off of The End of Time, when the 11th Doctor was falling to Earth. But actually, times 10, the stakes were so much higher. Not only is the Doctor falling to Earth, not only is the TARDIS exploding, but the Doctor's actually fallen out of the TARDIS, with no way of getting it back, from what we can see. And it looks like she's going to be literally falling to Earth and enjoying a first full debut on Earth, completely clueless, suffering from post-traumatic, post-regeneration stress. So yeah, I really can't wait to see how Chibnall resolves this and continues the 13th Doctor's story in Series 11. It's going to be great. My only gripe is that it's going to be another 9 months at least until we see Series 11, but I'm sure it'll be worth the wait. So that was my full spoiler-filled review of Doctor Who Twice Upon a Time. What did you think of this story? Please put it in the comments below and I'll be sure to read them and respond where necessary. Thank you so much for watching, a Merry Christmas to all of you at home, and goodbye for now.